Hello, I'm FGX Toycat, and today you're going to be watching a Minecraft video where I walk in a straight line for 30 minutes non-stop. You might question, are you going to do something exciting while you walk for 30 minutes? That sure does sound dull, and the answer is no. Not really. I mean, I'm going to pick up a shulker box here and there, and at the very end I'll jump in an end portal to go back to the overworld, but otherwise this is going to be 30 minutes of non-stop walking, and I hope you're looking forward to it, because this is Boxing Day. If you don't know, in the UK this is a celebrated day where it's kind of like an extension of Christmas Day. It's not necessarily celebrated everywhere, especially outside the Commonwealth, i.e. the United States mostly if you're watching this video, but I figured, you know, it's Boxing Day, let's put together some festive spirit, or if you live in a country where the festive spirit died yesterday, let's get ready for 365 days from now where there'll be more festive spirit. You might think 364 days, but 2020 is actually a leap year, so there's an extra day between now and the next Christmas, meaning that actually right now is the furthest you can be from the next Christmas, statistically at any point in time. That's an exciting fact, isn't it? But no, today's video is not about Christmas or Boxing Day really in the slightest. I mean, I could talk about my Boxing Day experiences, but it's mostly a live stream replacement where we talk about the important stuff, and you know what we're doing today? We're walking the lonely road, the only one that I have ever known. Don't know where it goes, but it's only me and I walk alone. These are things that are true. But no, more seriously, I figured given that it's Thursday and this is usually live stream day and I'm not live streaming, rather than just having an empty day, I'd give you a live stream replacement just because it's been so long since we've done these. People kind of like them as podcasts, and therefore we're going to talk about things, and we're going to start actually trying to tie it into this road. Everything's going to try and tie into roads somehow because that's what we built in the background. That's one of the fun little things we did. By the way, this was my first walkthrough before I made the tunnels and stuff. But one of the interesting things about this road is this took me 7 and a bit hours to build. You can watch the full 7 hours in the unlisted live streams I spoke about in yesterday's Christmas video. But the interesting thing about this 7-hour process to build is that even while walking in Minecraft, which isn't the fastest way to get around, most people sprint around, and even if you're not sprinting, you've got boats and minecarts, walking is a fairly slow way to actually enjoy things in Minecraft. But yet that 7 and a bit hours of building translates down to 30 minutes of walking. This video is more or less 30 minutes, right? And that, you know, this isn't sped up or slowed down. The fact that 7 hours of building results in a road which you can enjoy for about 30 minutes of walking creates a really interesting effect to me, because that means that, you know, for every 14 minutes I spent building this road, it takes me 1 minute to walk it. For every 14 minutes I had to put effort and time, etc. into building this. Admittedly, some of those minutes were spent on signs for people who paid the Toycat tax, but I mean, arguably without Toycat taxes, how can you build a Toycat road? But the more serious thing here is the fact that that ratio of 14 to 1, or even if it's 13 or 12 to 1, the fact that there's this huge amount of time put into something to make something enjoyable is something I find is very relevant when it comes to a lot of special and handcrafted, whatever sort of product like that. If you're thinking about a banana, the amount of time it takes someone to make the banana is actually less than it is for you to eat it, because of all the bulk processes involved. That one of the miracles of humanity is that it takes, like, you know, 18 seconds of someone's time to pick a banana, a whole batch of bananas too. The amount of time it takes to ship it is negligible because it's shared across a huge number of things. The fact that the you know, the time equation of how many seconds you need to work to buy a banana is so small is because of how many seconds it takes to make a banana in the finished process. But media is really interesting. Media is in this really weird space where the opposite is true. Instead of, like, you consuming something in more time than it takes you to actually, you know, earn the money to do a thing, media is something which is consumed very quickly, at least most forms of media, podcasts perhaps being the key exception, so tying it into this format right here, but which takes a disproportionate amount of time from the creators of said thing. To take the smallest scale example, you could say like this YouTube channel, you know, like I would work about 50 hours a week on YouTube, something along those lines, maybe a bit more in the weeks where things are busy, and maybe less in the weeks where I'm traveling, probably. It would make sense, right? But you can see how, like, okay, that's the balance, but the amount of content I put out a week isn't 50 hours exactly. There's a big condensing going on. There's like, you know, all the processes that aren't directly seen, the planning and the editing and the uploading and the working out the optimizations of this to make sure it all runs. The fact that, like, in a good week, once you count the live streams, we make 10 hours of content within 50 hours of stuff, means that's like a 5-to-1 ratio, right? Like, you're enjoying this, like, deeply distilled kind of fun. And the thing that I think about a lot is because I really enjoy the newest season of Rick and Morty. You know, is this a TV podcast? It is now. New series of Rick and Morty is really great because it's being really stupid, weird, but also managing to have these deep and interesting worlds and timelines and questions that it's asking. But like the fact that they spend a year and a half working on 10 episodes, which end up being like, 20 minutes each. So you're talking 200 minutes, an hour and a half, sorry, 3 hours and a half off, content in exchange for like many people, writers, animators, directors, marketers, etc. The fact that like it takes all of that to be taken to make this one thing makes me think of it as being like this great dessert, this like end product that you can enjoy, but only a little bit off every now and then. There are only a few shows that are so great that I'm like, ooh, you've got to savor this so well. There's only a few YouTube channels that are so great, I'm like, I have to savor this. But the thing that therefore makes you wonder is like, should everything be that way? Should every form of media be consumed in that form of content? And given that I make, the YouTube videos that I do, which, I try to make every single day, that's my big kind of ethos on this thing. I try to talk about lots of different topics from different genres and areas all over the place. Doing that on a daily basis would be impossible for one person, even a bunch of people. You'd have to, you'd start to dilute things, you'd start to distill things, and then it makes me wonder, like, do channels that pump out a lot of content, there's certain ones that do it very lazily, there's certain ones you might like. Hopefully you like my channel. We make daily, we're one of the few channels that are like making daily things that try to be different and actually thought out and unique in some way. But like, is that something that is done solely because, oh, the revenue balance is better? If I made one video a week, that's 1/7 as much revenue as if I make one video a day. Even if it's 7 times better, the revenue output isn't the same. Is it a thing of like that? And a part of me's always had in the back of my mind that it is. Or is it something along the lines of the efficiencies made to make a banana so cheap, or a cheesecake so tasty and also quite cheap? And is it the same efficiencies going into it to make that happen? And one of the kind of realizations from this past year of YouTube, honestly, a lot of it has come from the fact that I've met so many second channel fans that love what I, watch a lot of educational channels, but love what I do in some way more than some other channels. And this is going to be me really, taking compliments in a really strong way, but it's the value that I get from them, because I like when people say they like a thing that I did. I like when it inspires them in some way, makes them a better person, because it makes me realize that what I do has some value. But that's something I like, and of course I'm going to be more biased towards, but I'm very picky at working out which feedback is worth retaining. When someone just says, love the video, Toy Cat, what does that really mean? Was there value in that? When someone just says, hate the video, there's no real value in that either. Like, the real value comes from the in-depth comments, and reading some of those has made me realize that what people like, again, bear in mind, the education space has channels that do absurd amounts of production quality into each video. They have channels like the Kurzgesatz and the CGB Craze and the whatever else of the world. I'm sure the gaming space has the same somewhere in it, not to the same standard, but like, these channels aren't the ones that dominate YouTube necessarily in terms of all the metrics, because what people want isn't that. They, regularity is one of the things that makes content good, but also one of the things that make content good is the fact that using regularity, you can focus on more kind of niche. That, like, the reason TV is never going to be able to compete with YouTube in any real way, even if like there's a big comeback, it's never going to be able to compete with the idea that you can find something specifically for you. YouTube's, slogan of broadcast yourself, which I don't think exists anymore, but like, that used to be their slogan for quite some time. The idea of YouTube being the place where you can, broadcast anything was the wonderful thing that makes it a platform. The fact that every niche can be served and focused. The fact that if you want to see, weird historical ideologies tested in Minecraft, better believe I've got an idea of testing out one of the weirdest, nichest political ideologies that no one even knows, doesn't actually exist and it's just a meme. Better believe I'm testing it in a Minecraft world. These things that are so stupid actually interest people. These things that sound like, that no one would greenlight if it were some actual TV network, can be interesting to some people, and that is why, this time of year, it's like the time to be thankful, right? There's no Thanksgiving in the UK. I'm gonna be thankful on Boxing Day. What are you gonna do about it, internet? What are you gonna do about it, turkey lovers? We eat turkey on Christmas. Yeah, checkmate. And therefore I'm gonna be thankful on Christmas too, because turkey is the thankful, animal or whatever. Fun fact, by the way, turkeys, the animal, are actually named after Turkey, the country, because of some mistranslation on the sailors coming back from what was at the time the Ottoman Empire. So wow, isn't that a crazy little fun fact with Toy Cat? But yeah, all these niche things that are made possible is something that I really like, and that's why this distilling of content is something that I find interesting regardless, because it's not just something that's good. You can't just take 1,000 hours and put it down into something, because humans just aren't that great at making that happen in a way that's effective. The truth is, there are just certain things that are going to be enjoyable in forms of entertainment. Some of those things take more time, and some of those things take less. And I really, using that, pattern, using that thing of working out what should be done with that time, how do you make that more effective, is something I'm really going to take into 2020 as like a guiding principle of how to enjoy my life more, but also how to make videos that I think fit the concept of YouTube and whatnot better. I want to take advantage of the platform to do more collaborative sharing things with, even the subscribers, like you've seen with the world thing and the experiment thing I just mentioned. Guess who would be in that experiment? It'd be subscribers. I like the idea of taking advantage of that sort of stuff. And that's something I want to do a little bit more of. And I want to use it as an opportunity to just make any weird ideas I want to. Using YouTube as an experimental platform is something I like, and it's something you might just expect that we do here in the next year. Speaking of the next year, though, because I kind of spoke a lot about myself, let's do the opposite of myself. What is the opposite of a toy cat? I mean, you could say IBX real dog would be the opposite of IBX toy cat. But the opposite of that, I want to talk a little bit more about 2020 as a year as a whole, because 2020 is going to be really interesting for me personally on the level of like, it's a new decade. But I really do think that it's a whole new era of like, we tend to divide up the history when we look back at it by the decade. We assume that the 70s are just one thing, that 1971 and 1979 have so much in common, but 1981, that was a whole different beast. It's weird that we do that, but it's what we tend to do, which means 2020 is the opportunity to like define a new decade of things, and that's going to be really fun to see like what that trend starts to pick up and be. Like, I really think the last decade is like when the internet really became the thing that decides a lot of things about the world. It picked up that critical level of adoption, and then memes became a thing that could genuinely decide the future of, whether it be a fast food brand or a presidential candidate, or, all these things were decided by memes and Twitter and by social media as a whole, and by YouTube on some extent. And it's kind of wacky that, like, my YouTube career has kind of followed that trajectory along the side of it on one level. But I want to know what the next decade has in store. What is going to change for us? Some people will be like, it's all about the extinction of humanity. Some people will be like, this is where things really change. But really, most things happen on a really subtle end. Like, things happen so slowly that you don't think about them happening in the grand scheme of things. But when you look back, you have to think in the grand scheme of things. It's wacky to see so many historical events from that perspective of the time, because things seem really big looking back. But from the moment, they seem very obvious they're going to happen. Most things don't happen with a bang, but will happen with a series of whimpers. And that's why I want to see, like, what are those small little, like, waves here and there going to be? What are those small things going to happen? I'm excited as someone who, like, loves the future, loves futurology, loves the feeling that humans genuinely might be able to be the first species that we know of, or that we can observe, or really in any way, like, have any knowledge of, that might be the first in the entire universe, if not just the galaxy, to actually go beyond, like, what we do as a thing. These are things that happen very slowly, except they're happening quite fast, actually. And yeah, to see those little tiny steps that will happen very quickly, I'm excited for that. I'm excited as someone who sees humans as more than they are right now, to wonder what we do in the next decade that brings us closer towards that goal, actually, if we're here anyway, we're in the end, right? The end is vaguely like space in the real world, and if it's like space in the real world, it's basically on topic for me to talk about space. So guess what? Gonna give you a lecture on space now, internet. No, I really think space exploration, space travel, anyone who doesn't see those as the most immediate priorities for humanity is someone who just doesn't think about things. Either you don't think, or you don't think in any depth about what humans' problems are. Like, the biggest single problem we need to be facing is, like, we are a single planetary species that can be wiped out by so many events that we know are not just, possible, not just likely, but are going to happen at some point. We're just like, super volcano could erupt, kill us all. Solar flare, solar flares could happen any second now. There'd be no knowledge, just half the planet's instantly dead, the other half slowly dies, and maybe a few people survive that. Like, literally, we're talking a few dozen people might survive an event that wipes out the planet, which would make it inhospitable for them in the long run. Events like that can happen any point in time. Roaming black holes. There's such a long list of things that we know could kill us, and although it's nice to, stop thinking about them. If you're not a scientist, don't think about them. It's not going to help you as a person. The fact that, as a species, that's not our number one priority, like, I totally get why people have sympathy for certain groups of people that they think are the most important to help at any given point in time. It depends on where you fall on something, politics, blah, blah, blah. But the one thing we should all be, like, cross-party consensus on is, like, but the most most important humans were the friends we made along the way. But no, the most important humans are the ones that we are, is all of us, us as a species. You can hate us if you really want to. And sadly, actually, that is a growing trend, like just, apathy towards humanity. And I get it. Most humans do suck, but that's also something we can improve, The fact that humans are the only species able to actually improve our behaviors, which we are slowly managing to do. Oh no, we're not doing it fast enough, but we're doing it at some speed. Giraffes, you see giraffes 1,000 years ago? You see giraffes now? You probably didn't see giraffes 1,000 years ago because you probably weren't born then. If you were, that'd be interesting. But you see how much they changed? You see how racist giraffes probably still are, like, under their skin? They're like, yeah, I don't like this white giraffe over here. He's slightly too pale. I'm going to beat him up later, and then I'm gonna do something to his wife. That's what giraffes are thinking all the time. We don't think that so much anymore. The progress we make as a species on any tiny time frame in the cosmic scale is impressive. It's cool. Humans are awesome in the sense that we can improve. If you don't like humans, and there's a good chance you don't, and there's good reasons for you not to, this is something we can work on, and this is something that working on will make you feel better. There's a reason that people do all these tasks that seem impossible, or have you ever seen someone who does something and you're just like, why? How do they do that? Why do they do that? What joy are they getting from doing this? But when you're working on this, there's certain things that just seem illogical on the surface but make sense. To me, one of those, again, even though right now I'm still very anti-child, it's like, I totally agree that the idea of having a child, there's two things in life we need to do: survive and reproduce. The idea of having a child makes me right now be like, that's a giant obligation. I don't need another hobby right now. But, despite that being true, it's still like, you can probably understand why it might be enjoyable for someone to have all those feelings of having put a whole life into the world and something about the processes and something going into that. Like, it makes sense that there's some inherent enjoyment or something in there, even if you hate it from this perspective. Even if you hate, olives are actually a good example of something I hate, but every time I see olives, I'm like, give me some. I take them, I eat them. I don't enjoy them, but I'm like, this is interesting. It's something I'm trying to work with, by the way. I'm trying to, improve my olive improvement taste, because you can kind of see what's on the other side there. This is something I kind of implore you to do, but implore anyone to do, to think about with humanity as a whole, I guess. Like, think about the things we're going to improve on, the things we're going to do, the things that are going to make us great, make humanity great again. You know how you do that? You gotta believe in it. So, yeah, to tie things back into the gameplay again, I always want to step too far away. Space travel, cool. It's essential. We have to do it at some point. And the sad thing is, I guess, there's this lash period where people are taught oh yeah, we went to the moon in 1969. After we sent the first person to space in the early, I want to say it was the 50s when the first dog went into space, or monkey or something like that. The amount of technology that happened in the space race, everyone knows was fast. A lot of people don't know that we basically stopped after that, or basically haven't gone anywhere. The International Space Station is impressive, but it's being decommissioned in the next while without really a viable, compared to a viable, replacement for it. There are a lot of things that have kind of slowed down in that regard. Those are the things we need to get hyped about. We need to realize that the space race was actually not, and then also the misconception that the space race was oh yeah, we had two countries competing to see who could be the best. That was kind of a byproduct of we need missiles so we can nuke each other in a second. Russia and America, despite being two very close countries, are also very far away. Actually, geography with Toycat, you better believe it's coming in a main channel video. I find it fascinating that Russia and America are two of the closest nations in the world. If you look at the two islands in between Alaska and between eastern Russia, there is one that is, there's two islands 3 miles apart. One has a Russian population, one has an American population. They're so close to each other, but they're 24 hours apart. There's so many fascinating little tidbits of information about these islands. But the other fascinating thing about these islands, this situation, is the fact that it means that even though Russia and America are so close, Washington, D.C. and Moscow are literally 15 hours by flight apart or something like that, which means nuking each other was really hard, and they wanted to prove they could nuke each other, even if they weren't going to. How do you do that? You get yourself some ICBMs, intercontinental ballistic missiles. How do you test intercontinental ballistic missiles? Well, missile testing makes you look aggressive, makes you look bad as a person. We've all seen North Korea do it. I mean, can't we just trust that when they say they promise they're not going to do anything wrong? We could totally trust that, right? Or we can look at that and say, no, missile testing's bad, and then we can instead send things to space. Like, oh yeah, go onto the moon. What a great idea that also allows us to test all these different systems of different stage missile parts. And anyway, fun fact, that's what the space race was really about, just about nuking each other. So what I'm saying is we need to threaten each other a lot more. We need to think like, oh, you know what, I'm gonna nuke all of Earth and send our country to Mars. And then Russia will have to be like, oh, same here. And also China will be like, yeah, we're gonna do that first though. Let's try and get people to Mars so that we can make our plan happen. Like, I guess what it really is like, there's two things that drive any humans to do any task, and it's like, one is the idea of wanting to be better, the idea of like having some commercial, like individual profitable interest for a lot of people. You know, you can have one company paying people based on their results in that way, one person seeking results themselves by doing this thing. You can have people driven that way, or you can have people driven by the fear of extermination. And I'm just saying, we need some more fear of extermination if we want to get to Mars, is clearly the message. And even Mars, you know, like when we go to Earth and Mars, we still have such a tiny part of the problem solved there. Like, that's going to be the coolest thing because we'll have gone from one planet to two, but really we're talking about like getting to the next solar systems, and these are things that have hundreds of steps of processes that we need to start solving somehow. So work out how to do it and do your bit. Or just imagine, let's just all collectively agree that should happen, and then someone will make it happen. Like, you know, something Elon Musk's of the world will make that dream somewhere in reality. Anyway, so this walk through the end, it's really nice, right? It's calming, it's great, it's wonderful. Nothing's gone terribly wrong so far. And the interesting thing about walking in Minecraft is that it's a surprisingly relaxing activity that I don't really do enough at all. It's something I kind of noticed about the real world too. Walking is something that is such a basic activity that most people in my life have never really enjoyed, and I guess it's something I've always had a hard time explaining. But isn't there something beautiful about, like, hey, there's this activity that allows you to exercise, it's good for you, it doesn't take much effort, like for me at least, it's instinctive, because I used to have to walk to school something like 5 kilometers. It took me way over an hour to get there, like 3 and a bit hours round trip, I'd say, like to and from school, and then later to college. Side note, but it's a really bad idea, like, you know, maybe this is the weirdest way to learn that, but like, I learned the lesson that a really long commute is bad quite early on, I would say, because it extends any number of hours you do by like this huge amount that you think is like, oh yeah, well this is kind of like a free time, you can think you can do whatever you want, but something about it being an obligation that's unavoidable, that's stuck in the way that is, you know, like it's non-optional, like at least you know, you can shorten a day of something by this amount, but you know, you're walking, you can't do it any faster. And yeah, I imagine like being in a car where you're not even exercising, you're just literally pressing a pedal for that amount of time. Yeah, pro tip Toy Cat, don't set yourself in for a commute that's like you know, 2 hours long, or I've heard there's places in America where you do like a 3-hour commute, because that is a way to easily make yourself want to die. The studies are, you know, pretty clear on that one. So life lessons of Toy Cat that I learned at like 14. I never really actually like internalized it, because the only reason I did walk to school so long, my like parents were like, hey, we can probably, there's probably a bus, like there was a set of buses you could catch, here's an amount of money for a bus pass, and like it was the only time in my life where I had a constant source of money. One of the things I actually you know, with a therapy session with Toy Cat, one of the things I kind of would say, the lessons I learned from my childhood is that the happiest times are when I got a constant source of income from my parents that I could work towards and use whatever I wanted. The worst times were, again, I think this was like a cover-up for being you know, some amount of poor, like single mother working as a waitress for, you know, two kids that she has to raise. You know, the situation isn't good, especially when you live close to London, like I do. But like, you know, I wonder if this was like a cover up, or if it was a form of control. But like, I used to only get money for things that I needed. I had to state the reason, and then I would get the money if it was deemed valid in that way. You know, when I was given money, it's like, no, you can't use it on that, you idiot. You can't spend money on. I think it was Subway. The first thing I was like, ooh, it's back when Subway was new. I was like, I want to give this a try. No, don't spend money on Subway. This is a holiday event. Save it for some form of holiday store, Toy Cat. These sorts of events like kind of shaped how I deal with money, and I feel like the easiest way to like make someone good, because I've even spotted like the to be good versus bad of money, one of the easiest things is just like, if you're given money and tested with it, you'll usually be great. When you're just like given, when you're, a lot of people get taught this system of, oh yeah, money exists in a kind of weird vacuum. You get paid, then you have money, then at some amount of time later, you won't have money. So you might as well enjoy when you have money while it lasts. And this is why some people go crazy and they like, you know, as soon as they get paid, they're like, gotta spend while it still exists, but they don't know that that's contributing to it. The same is also true that like, even if you're not thinking about like crazy night outs and spending money on alcohol and weird experiences, there's also a definite truth to the idea that in certain communities, and this is true from family too, I don't know why, every person I've met that does this to their family makes me anxious and makes me like physically recoil inside myself. But when people regularly lend pretty huge amounts of money to and from their family, one, it's something I've done and it's just something that hurts your family relationship and hurts your finances and your understanding and conception of money. But second of all, yeah, that adds to the whole thing of like, when you're broke, when you don't have money, you can't lend it out to people. You just say, I'm broke, don't have anything. When you have money, people are going to ask to borrow some, and a lot of people who ask to borrow money won't give it back or won't give it back on a reliable time frame, and that adds to that whole conception, and that's why it can very easily get to the idea of like, oh yeah, I have money when I need it, and other people get money from me when they need it, therefore let's try and not have any left. A funny analogy, I heard this from someone recently, and I didn't realize it was like a common thing. I thought it was just my brother that did this once, but it's a really interesting, apparently common story. Let me know in the comments down below if you have a sibling that's done this to you, where like if you both get the same amount of something, you and your sibling, because for some reason, I hate, this is another thing I hate about parents, like treating siblings like they're just the same and like, oh yeah, these are just two of the you know, they're worth the same amount to me, so we're just going to do exactly the same stuff here. So one of the things is like, we'd get the same amount of something, let's say half a bag of Skittles each, or a bag of Skittles each. Let's be fun with this. My brother would eat his real fast and be like, hey, you have Skittles now, I don't. It's only fair that I have some of yours. And it's like, but the reason you don't have Skittles is because you ate them so fast. And I'm convinced, like, I called him out on it once and he didn't, like, he didn't say I was wrong. And, like, apparently, I spoke to his girlfriend recently and she's like, he does this to me too. But, yeah, the idea, like, it's a really interesting thing to me that, like, oh yeah, you can... the concept of what you have now is very different to the concept of what you had, what you were given, what you have earned, what you have spent. All these things come up. And the reason I'm saying this now is, one, I went on a crazy tangent and therapy of Toy Cat. It helps to get your feelings into the world, even if in some weird video where you're just talking to your microphone while walking through the end for concerning reasons, I guess. But also, it's like, you know what? Christmas is a time where if you are at the age where people get you gifts, I'm going to say under 18 mostly, but let's just say you're a dependent of some form. You know, when you're a dependent on someone else, I think in some places that's like 22 or something. But like when you are reliant on someone else, when you're dependent on them, which most children are to their parents, but also you can be that way deep into your teenage years. When that's true, you get money and you get gifts and etc. things from Christmas. There is a transfer of assets and from money from your parents to you. It might be tempting to be like, yeah, gotta spend this like crazy now. But there's also, I'm just here to be the little angel on your shoulder being like, no, don't spend all your money. You can save a little bit and then you'll have some for the future. And, yeah, actually that kind of ties us all the way back into the center. That this is actually, it's funny, it's not just money, which is the easiest quantifiable limited resource we have as humans that we all share. But also, entertainment is the same way, right? There are some things where I'm like, this is going to be good. This is an hour live stream from a YouTuber I like. This is a big, hefty piece of content. I'm looking, you know, there are podcasts like that are only once a week that I can only enjoy on that time scale. Even if it's 4 hours, I can still enjoy it that way. Looking forward to certain things and saving them like desserts is better than being like, it's here, I'm gonna get rid of it now, and then when I need it most, I won't have it. And I guess, yeah, this is really the life lesson from Toy Cat of like, hey, did you know you'll only ever earn a certain amount of money? There'll only ever be so many things in your life that you'll enjoy entertainment-wise that you'll want to watch. Make sure you treasure them while they last, because not everything lasts forever, and your support of a thing that you like, your wanting to put into it, is what can make it last forever. And speaking of that, I hope you'll enjoy today's video. One thing I'm going to recommend, actually, this is going to be my little sales pitch at the end of the video. Instead of being like, hey, make sure you buy my merch for your family this Christmas, which I haven't done once this season. Can we quickly praise me for not going to that level, because I don't really feel comfortable doing that. So like, yeah, no merch sales, no make sure you join on IBX Toy Cat, hit that join button, give me some money. That's like, to me, that's a live stream feature, not a YouTube feature. Instead, what I will recommend is like, hey, treat yourself to some YouTube Premium. There's a 1-month free trial. You get ad-free access to YouTube background play, so you can listen to videos like this. and also do other things while you got headphones in. And also, it helps every YouTuber you watch out a bunch. January is going to be a real rough month for a lot of YouTubers. That's why so many just take the month off. Like, it's better to make no money than to do the same amount of work and make a half or a third of the amount of money. So rather than that being a big thing, although it's still going to happen, a lot of YouTubers will take their time off. One of the things you can do to help support the YouTubers that are making things in January, because the ads support isn't so strong, is to get YouTube Premium, because YouTube Premium, it means you as a viewer pay roughly double, sometimes like as close to 3, 4, 5 times what an ad would pay. If everyone on YouTube had YouTube Red, YouTube Premium, one, the remaining ads would pay more, so everyone would be a winner on that front, but also two, YouTubers would be a lot more reliant on making videos people want to watch rather than making videos people want to click, and that is a cool incentive system you can work forward to into the future. And that's why you'll get more videos like this if you want it, and less videos like this if you don't. Although, if you watch 29 minutes and 50 seconds of this, then you probably like this video in some way, and that's why you should like it. And just in case somehow this is your first ToyCat video, make sure you subscribe. I feel like in 2020, I'm going to start telling people to subscribe more, because I don't know, actually. I feel like the second channel needs subscribers more, because we're about to hit 100k, get that silver plaque. I'm never going to get a diamond plaque on YouTube. 10 million is unrealistic. But I do want to, like, have, like, I don't know, 1 point more than 3 million. Like, when you get, like, 1.7, you're like, yeah, that's, like, a solid amount. I still feel like we're just too close to 1 million subscribers, and it feels like, it doesn't feel great to me. And that's the weirdest complaint in the world. But you know what? Welcome to the internet. This is what you do here. You complain about weird things no one cares about. And I hope you all enjoyed this video, where I did exactly that. Thank you very much for watching, because I'll see you all tomorrow, probably. Goodbye.